The soft hum of the coffee machine filled the apartment, mingling with the faint scent of vanilla candles that YN had lit earlier. She leaned against the kitchen counter, her fingers wrapped around a warm mug, staring out the window at the city lights twinkling against the dusk. Her heart felt light tonight, a rare but cherished sensation, because Taehyung was coming over. The thought of him, his deep, playful voice, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, made her lips curve into a smile. YN had been dating Taehyung for nearly a year, and every moment with him felt like a page from a fairy tale. He was charming, attentive, and had a way of making her feel like the only person in the room. They'd met at a local art gallery, where he'd caught her staring at a vibrant abstract painting, her head tilted in confusion. It's supposed to make you feel something, not think too hard. He'd said, his voice smooth as velvet, and that was it. A conversation sparked, numbers were exchanged, and soon they were inseparable. But not everyone in YN's life was as enchanted by Taehyung as she was. Ah, you're burning those candles again? A sharp voice cut through the cozy atmosphere. YN's roommate, Jiwoo, stepped into the kitchen, her arms crossed and her expression as cold as the autumn chill outside. Jiwoo was a stark contrast to YN's warmth, sharp-edged, reserved, and perpetually unimpressed. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, and her piercing gaze seemed to dissect everything in its path. "They smell nice," YN said defensively, her smile faltering. She didn't know why Jiwoo always seemed to have a problem with her, but their interactions were consistently tense. They'd been roommates for 2 years, thrown together by circumstance and a cheap lease, but YN had never managed to crack Jiwoo's icy exterior. Jiwoo snorted, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. "Whatever. Just don't let your boyfriend make a mess tonight. I'm not cleaning up after him again. He's not messy," YN muttered, though she knew arguing with Jiwoo was pointless. Taehyung had only spilled wine on the couch once, and YN had scrubbed it out herself, but Jiwoo never let it go. And he's not staying long. We're just watching a movie. Jiwoo paused, her eyes narrowing. "Keep him away from Sana, too. I've told you before. She's trouble." YN's grip on her mug tightened. Sana was her best friend, her confidant since high school, the one who'd been there through every heartbreak and triumph. Jiwoo's cryptic warnings about her never made sense, and YN chalked them up to her roommate's general dislike for everyone. "Sana's not trouble. She's my friend." Jiwoo's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't argue further. Instead, she turned and disappeared into her room, leaving YN with a familiar knot of frustration in her chest. Why did Jiwoo always have to ruin her mood? The doorbell rang, pulling YN out of her thoughts. She set her mug down and hurried to the door, her heart lifting as she opened it to find Taehyung standing there, his signature grin lighting up his face. He wore a black leather jacket over a white t-shirt, his dark hair slightly tousled, and he held a small bouquet of daisies, her favorite. "For my favorite person?" he said, handing her the flowers with a playful wink. The next day, YN sat at a cozy cafe with Sana, the air filled with the rich aroma of roasted coffee beans. Sana looked radiant as always, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, her smile bright enough to turn heads. She was the kind of person who commanded attention effortlessly. And YN had always admired her confidence. "So, how's Loverboy?" Sana asked, stirring her latte with a playful smirk. "Still treating you like a princess?" YN laughed, sipping her iced coffee. "Taehyung's great. He brought me flowers last night." Sana's smile tightened, almost imperceptibly. "Flowers, huh? That's cute. But, is he always that perfect?" "Nobody's that perfect." YN frowned, caught off guard by the shift in tone. "What do you mean?" Sana shrugged, leaning back in her chair. "I don't know. Just guys like that? They're usually too good to be true. I'm just looking out for you, YN. You're too trusting sometimes." The words stung, though YN wasn't sure why. Sana had always been protective, but this felt different, sharper, almost accusatory. "He's not like that," YN said, her voice quieter. "He makes me happy." Sana held up her hands in mock surrender. Okay. I'm just saying, be careful. You deserve someone who's really good for you." The conversation moved on, but Sana's words lingered in YN's mind like a splinter. Over the next few weeks, Sana's subtle jabs at Taehyung became more frequent. She'd point out how he was always busy with work, how he didn't text YN back fast enough, how he seemed distant in the stories YN shared. At first, YN brushed it off, but doubt began to creep in, fueled by Sana's relentless commentary. Meanwhile, Jiwoo's warnings about Sana grew more pointed. One evening, as YN was washing dishes, Jiwoo leaned against the counter, her voice low but firm. "I'm telling you, YN, that girl's got an agenda. You think she's your friend, but she's not. Stay away from her." YN's patience snapped. "Why do you keep saying that? You don't even know her." Jiwoo's eyes darkened. "I know enough. You're blind, YN. You don't see the way she looks at you, or at Taehyung." The words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling, but YN shook her head. "You're wrong. Sana's my best friend. She wouldn't do anything to hurt me." Jiwoo sighed, her expression unreadable. "You'll see," she said simply, then walked away. Months passed, and the cracks in YN's relationship with Taehyung began to show. Sana's constant warnings had wormed their way into YN's mind, making her question every little thing. Was Taehyung really as invested as she was? Did he care as much as he said? The doubts piled up, and their once easy conversations turned into arguments. Taehyung grew frustrated, his patience wearing thin as YN's insecurities deepened. One rainy evening, it all fell apart. They were at Taehyung's apartment, the tension between them palpable. YN had confronted him about a text she'd seen from an unknown number. Nothing incriminating, but Sana had convinced her it was suspicious. "I can't do this anymore," Taehyung said, his voice raw with exhaustion. "You don't trust me, YN. You're always looking for something to be wrong." "That's not true," YN protested, tears stinging her eyes. I don't know what to think anymore." "Then maybe we shouldn't be together," he said, the words cutting like a knife. YN left his apartment in a daze, the rain soaking through her clothes as she walked home. She didn't call Sana. She didn't call anyone. She just wanted to disappear. The weeks that followed were a blur of heartbreak. YN threw herself into work, avoiding Sana's calls and Taehyung's social media. But the universe had a cruel way of twisting the knife. One evening, as she scrolled through her phone, she saw it, a photo of Taehyung and Sana, posted by a mutual friend. They were at a party, his arm around her waist, her smile radiant. The caption read, "New beginnings." YN's heart shattered all over again. Sana, her best friend, the one who'd spent months telling her Taehyung was toxic, manipulative, unworthy, had moved in on him the moment they'd broken up. The betrayal was a physical ache, a weight that crushed her chest. Jiwoo found her that night, curled up on the couch, tears streaming down her face. For once, Jiwoo's cold demeanor softened. She sat beside YN, silent for a long moment before speaking. "I told you," she said quietly, but there was no smugness in her voice. "Sana's not who you think she is." YN's voice trembled. "Why didn't I listen to you?" Jiwoo sighed, her expression unreadable. "You wanted to believe in her. That's not a crime." The final straw came weeks later, when YN spotted Taehyung and Sana at a cafe near her apartment. They were laughing, their hands intertwined on the table, and the sight ignited something furious in YN's chest. She stormed inside, her heart pounding, and marched straight to their table. Yen? Taehyung's eyes widened, his smile fading. Sana's expression was unreadable, yet her lips curling into a faint smirk. What's this about? How could you? Yen's voice shook, loud enough to draw stares from nearby patrons. You told me he was toxic, Sana. You said he was bad for me, and the second we break up, you're with him? What kind of friend are you? Sana leaned back, unfazed. You broke up. He was free to move on. So was I. Yen's hands clenched into fists. You manipulated me. You made me doubt him, doubt myself. Just so you could... Enough! Taehyung's voice cut through, sharp and angry. He stood, his eyes blazing. You don't get to come in here and make a scene, Yen. You ended this. You didn't trust me. Don't blame Sana for your mistakes. The words hit like a slap. Yen's vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to stand tall. She turned to Taehyung, her voice low but steady. You'll see who she really is, Taehyung. She's no good for you. She'll ruin you, just like she ruined me. She didn't wait for a response. She turned and walked out, the bell above the door jingling as it closed behind her. The cold air hit her face, but it couldn't numb the ache in her chest. Back at the apartment, Yen collapsed onto the couch, her emotions a tangled mess of anger, betrayal, and grief. Jiwoo was there, as she always was, sitting quietly across from her with a mug of tea in her hands. You okay? Jiwoo asked, her voice softer than Yen had ever heard it. Yen shook her head, tears spilling over. I was so stupid. Jiwoo set her mug down and moved to sit beside her. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. Yen looked at her, surprised by the gentleness in Jiwoo's eyes. Why do you care? You've never liked me. Jiwoo's lips twitched, almost a smile. I don't hate you, Yen. I just see things you don't. I've known people like Sana before. I didn't want you to get hurt. Yen wiped her eyes, her voice small. Thank you for being here. Jiwoo shrugged, but there was warmth in her gaze. Someone's got to look out for you. For the first time, Yen felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she'd lost Taehyung, and maybe Sana had betrayed her, but she wasn't alone. Jiwoo, cold and prickly as she was still there, a quiet anchor in the storm. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start healing.